And the most exciting thing about doing it here is not only are we doing it here in Zurich, but we're doing it at the first, or the inaugural, HypnoseKongress. And so we're really excited. And this was also Hans's dream. And when he has a dream, it sort of happens. He works very hard, and he's relentless. And somehow or other, it gets pulled together, and he does it. So we're really excited. And the best part, and this was beyond my imagination or my dreams initially, we were going to have a panel in the United States of more people in the United States. But this is truly a panel of international representation, and I couldn't have asked for a better panel. So I'm really, really excited to be here. And I'm excited that you guys are going to get to share this with us. This is every one of these people use methods or techniques that Dave Elman used back when he was teaching back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and have intertwined them into their practices. So each panelist is going to take 5 minutes to introduce themselves, where they're from, and to share how Dave's techniques have influenced their methods and practices. So,
Well, it's a pleasure to introduce myself, and one of the things I like very much about hypnotists is that they come from all kinds of different backgrounds, and myself including. So I have a master in business administration. I've been general manager of a foundation that worked in development cooperation, strengthening women entrepreneurship. So I've been at the Royal Palace in South Africa. I've been with the First Lady in Peru. So I've done all kinds of things that are very interesting, but I found out that my real passion is with hypnosis, and I started learning this in 2008. I had a training in Belgium, and that person said, explained about Gerald Kine. That is, I saw a lot of his DVDs, and I decided I have to go to the land. And there I found out that he brings the legacy of Dave Elman in a tremendous way, and also enhanced in it and made sure that the techniques progressed. And I started working, and then I used Dave's techniques, and then you're alone in your office, and then you have to do your first regression, and I say, wow, it works. It is really so great. And
I hear first about Dave Elman. No, I have to go a little bit back. As a kid, I was interested in hypnosis. But then I learned these methods, you know, of holding a candle in front of your eyes and this stuff, and it just didn't work. And I said, well, something is going on which I cannot explain. I don't know. People tell me about it. And then one time I heard of somebody saying, a magician actually it was, in New Orleans, I heard that. He said, you know, there was a guy, he just snapped his fingers, and that person went straight into hypnosis. And I said, no way, holding a candle, talking to them all the time. And I could never figure out how to hypnotize somebody, you know, just snapping your fingers. And then I finally found videos by Jerry Kine. That was in 1997. And the first one that I bought of those videos was the Dave Elman induction. And then things started changing. Then I was like, oh my God, there's like a recipe to hypnotize people and hypnotize them within a very, very short time. And later on, when I became also trained by Jerry Kine, who really who held up the legacy of Dave Elman through all those years when some other people were being pushed, especially by the medical community. And the no-nonsense approach that Jerry Kine teaches, based on, obviously, the Dave Elman methods, it changed my life. And one of the most important things that I learned from Dave Elman was, he said, if an hypnosis induction takes longer for a doctor or a dentist to work than, like, say, an injection, then they don't use it. So we have to be as fast or faster to hypnotize patients or clients in the office, especially doctors and dentists, for them to use it. And what does the Dave Elman induction do? It does exactly that. It's either, depending on the language and depending on your skill, it's 2 to 5, maybe 6 minutes. And if you boil down the Elman induction to its essence, and it has an essence.
Training was a little soft. So luckily for me, I came across Jerry Kine, and I took his training, and life changed. I am another one of those people. I had first hypnotized my first person when I was 10 years old. And it was an interesting thing. My brother decided he was going to hypnotize me, and he bought a book and learned how to do it. And it was with the old fixation, you know, the pen, and I lay me on the couch, and then he pasted me to the wall and all the other things. I thought, well, that's really fun. And I started to hypnotize all my friends. And I was very lucky that I didn't run into any kids that were having issues, because if I, you know, when sometimes you put someone in hypnosis and they're ready to pop sometimes. So I was very lucky. And anyway, then I moved, I'm originally born in Belgium, and I came to Canada when I was 6. And I'm definitely a Canadian. So the interesting thing is that when I started doing all the things that Jerry taught me, I was just totally in love with Dave Elman, even though I never met the man. And so
Years ago, I was a professional student, and I was in a hypnosis course, and I learned the Dave Elman induction there. And it was the first really effective induction that I ever learned. I mean, it actually worked. People got hypnotized, and I got excited about that. And I wanted to learn more about the methods of this man. And I took a class with a gentleman down in Florida,
yes.
Who probably did more than anyone else to keep Elman's legacy alive. And as I sat in the class, I thought, this guy has a fantastic job. Here he's teaching these really effective methods where you can fix people just like that. And he's teaching 20, 25 people in a class, and they're going out and using these effective methods to change people's lives for the better. And I thought, that's a really rewarding way to spend your life. I've got to do this. So I kept investigating Elman, and now my contribution to the hypnosis community was tracking down his son. I was doing a lecture on the Dave Elman induction, and I was going through the internet, and my research skills were pretty good. And
in Dubai since 1976, and before that I was in Tanzania. I did VSO, voluntary service overseas there. And I'm kind of different in that I come from a very academic background. I was teaching, then a headmistress, head of a university department, etc. Always very interested in words. And even when I was a kid, I was asking, which came first? Words and thinking, or thought? And I was always interested in this, and I would have taken linguistics then if it was available in the 60s to study. I'm really old. And but in the 60s we experimented with lots of other things to get into higher levels.
Expanding our minds.
Expanding our minds. And
I'm Larry Elman, the son of Dave Elman. When I was about 10 and a half, I went to my father and said, "You're teaching hypnosis, teach me." And Dad took me over to a large bookcase where he had his hypnosis books and pulled out a volume that at age 10 I thought I couldn't even carry. And he said, "Read this cover to cover and give me a written book report on it." Now, you know, you do this to any 10-year-old, the answer's going to be, "Oh, nah." But I did that, brought it back, figured, okay, now where do we go from here? Walked me over to the bookcase, put that one back in, handed me another and said, "You're lucky. In this one you'll need to read 3 chapters, and he pointed them out. We went through 5 books like that, and finally I said to him, "Why am I reading all these books?" He said, "If I allow you in my class, you will be the only person there who has not graduated both college and medical school, And I'll be darned if they're going to say that I brought along a sniveling, pain-in-the-butt kid. You will either mature fast or you will be kicked. Okay, fine. So with that as an introduction, I took Dad's class. I went on to take Dad's course 3 times. You can look at it in either of 2 ways. Either I'm an extremely gung-ho learner, or I was an extremely slow student, and I leave it to your judgment. I then did quite a bit of hypnosis. Dad had a requirement for all of his students to do a certain number of inductions between sessions, and he comes to me and he says, "You're not doing your homework," and I pointed out, doctors have a steady flow of patients through their office. He said, "Fine. You'll take my vaudeville stage bill and you'll go out and be a stage hypnotist. That's where you're going to get your steady flow now." So I was a stage hypnotist for a while. Not a good one. In fact, looking back at it, a pretty bad one. But it did give me...
Yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
Robert Preetz, clinical psychologist from Magdeburg, Germany. And I got infected with the hypnosis virus in my first year at the university. And I learned then hypnosis from books, because in East Germany it was hard to find any literature. And there were no classes. And after the wall came down, I thought, now I can really learn hypnosis, and did some training. And somehow, after doing those trainings, I had the feeling I've lost the power of hypnosis. Before, I was amazed by doing age regression, activate memory, hypermemory, amnesia, hallucination, positive, negative. And after those trainings, I wasn't sure, is the client in hypnosis? And they weren't. And I was afraid of doing tests because they might fail. At that time, I hadn't been lucky to know Jerry Kine. So I was looking to find the essence again. And to make a long story short,